Welcome, everybody, to Making the Merge, the greatest Survivor podcast to not have a theme song through the first 9 weeks of their run.
We keep thinking about it. We keep coming close to a theme song, and what can I say? It's just still in the oven baking, potentially.
Yeah, we have concepts of a plan. That is for sure.
Some would say we've, mostly you, have enacted part of a plan to get us a theme song that is, we'll just say unexpected. So,
yeah, and who knows if it'll happen or not.
It may fall through.
We'll see. Yeah.
It may fall through. PD, I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we're both here. PD, I do want to just very quickly mention the fact that TikTok's blowing up, man. It's soaring for us right now.
It's been a great time. I feel like who knows, this show might be dead in the water without TikTok clips of it.
When Rome went home, great rhyme by the way, when Rome went home, I thought our podcast might be over because we were not going to have any TikTok clips.
Yeah.
And then, what do you know? Sweet Kyle came through.
And Andy. Can't forget about Andy.
The thrusting really took us places on TikTok.
Yeah, and we'll be getting to some more of that later, but I guess that's a good place to let's get into the episode.
Let's do it.
So we started the episode with the last two Gattas in the aftermath of Andy just turning on them.
Which again
Sierra.
He was stoked about. You could see it written all over his face. He's giddy every time that he's been able to just backstab somebody. He's so happy.
Yeah, his first confessional in this one, he said, "I'm a certified flipper now."
That's right. He did say that. He's got that, he gets like a glimmer in his eye when he backstabs him or whatever. Like he just, even in the flashbacks they showed at the beginning of this week's episode, I looked at Kristen and I said, he's got like a hunger now. It's like he can't get enough of it.
Yeah, and that could end up biting him, but
I think so.
Who knows? Either that or he's Darth Jar Jar and he will be Supreme Chancellor by the end of this.
We keep saying that things are going to bite him in the butt, and yet he is still here. He's still not gone. Like, it is frustrating. We're like, oh, there's no way he's going to survive this. And then he's like a cockroach,
You know what happens when you throw a grenade at Jar Jar Binks? Jar Jar's going to blow up your tank.
Yeah.
And that's what we learned in the Battle of Naboo, I believe.
We're deep into the lore. By the way, this is no longer Making the Merge. This is now a Star Wars fan cast. We're taking it. It's completely flipped for us now.
We're diving deep into the Clone Wars. Okay, not really. Let's talk about Survivor. So it was the last two Gattas consoling each other. They were talking about how they still want to look out for each other and they can't obviously work together, but they still care about each other. Mm-hmm. And then Sam says he can't even look at Andy anymore.
Yeah, which, by the way, it's like Sam's had it out for Andy the whole time, and then all of a sudden he's just like, oh, I can't even look at Andy anymore. Like they've been best friends. Meanwhile, he and Sierra were like dragging Andy along and saying the meanest stuff behind his back.
Exactly.
And now he's the one with hurt feelings. He had it coming for him.
So then we get some more Andy and some more Rachel. Is the beginning of this episode is very heavy on Andy and Rachel. So, are they heavy. Telling us something? Maybe those two make it far?
I am starting to pay more attention to the edit. And I do feel like Rachel is kind of ramping up out of nowhere more into this edit. And it's making me question whether or not she could be more important in this game than we originally thought. She would be a great comeback story
Yeah, I mean, especially if she's the last Gatta, which she probably will be. I think
that's fair.
They're more likely to go for Sam than Rachel. If she could run the table, that would be a great winner.
Yeah. And I know that y'all talked about this last week, but there's also she's super smart. For example, that shot in the dark move where she used the shot in the dark to gauge whether she felt safe or not to not reveal her idol. That was one of those moments where I was like, man, she's playing really well, and I underestimated her, I believe.
Yeah, I think I did too, because that shot in the dark thing, that was a move that nobody had ever thought of before.
Yeah.
It's like anybody could have done that the past however many seasons, but she was the first one to think of it.
I was confused when it was happening. I know that was kind of where Chase was landing too, but he's stupid, and I should have seen it coming, but it was one of those things where as it was happening, I'm looking at Kristen, and we're both just like, why is she doing this? Why wouldn't she just play her idol if she feels not safe? And then I think we were talking about it on the Jeff Probst brought it up or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
I say all of that because it is a little Rachel and Andy heavy. I think she might go far.
So after, we got Andy talking about how he's a certified flipper, Andy and Rachel were talking to each other about how they want to work with each other, and it just hasn't happened for various reasons. And Rachel said that they had been ping-ponging, and then there's this montage of Andy being annoying. And it's like, no, that's why y'all didn't work together.
Yeah, she was acting like they were just at odds with the universe at this point as to why they had never worked together, when really it was like, Rachel, I think you just hated him for the first 50% of this show. Like no one wanted to work with Andy except Genevieve apparently now. Like that's, oh my word, that's a whole different thing.
Doesn't it kind of feel like Rachel is the new Genevieve? A little bit.
Don't you dare.
I'm sorry, Canadian listeners.
Don't even try to compare someone else to my Genevieve, because
you're right.
She is going to go to the end. Okay, I say that, but I will. This episode makes me a little scared for her because things are starting to get out of her control somewhat, and I don't want to. We'll just continue on with the narrative. We'll get there. We'll talk about it.
All right. You know what? I'm sorry, Canadians and Jonathan, for comparing Genevieve to anybody.
Yeah.
Genevieve is her own special Survivor player.
Yep. Very individual and very special. So, that's how I feel. But continue, PD. Please walk us through this narrative.
So we get to the challenge, and the challenge is broken up into pairs of two.
Yep.
We've got Saul and Teeny, Sue and Genevieve, Andy and Sam, Caroline and Rachel, and then Gabe and Kyle.
Gabe and Kyle, man. I saw that duo and I thought, oh, there we go. There's our winners. I mean, it was
I thought the same thing. I was like, there's the dream team. Like, nobody's beating these guys.
Yeah, and they vibed with each other. Like, I feel like Gabe and Kyle would be friends externally from Survivor. I'm making a lot of, assumptions this episode.
Yeah, like I said, parasocial Jonathan.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening to me.
That's what's going on. You're going to create your own separate survivorship podcast where you're talking about all the couples.
I'm like, guys, if you want to keep up with my Survivor fan fiction, you can go follow me. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting out of hand, but they got along well and they moved quick through this challenge.
Well, it brings us to the Kyle quote of the week, because
Drop it.
Jeff asked them about picking each other, and Kyle said, I think everyone just kind of jived. Gabe and I locked eyes, and I asked him to be mine, and he said yes.
Yeah, Kyle's amazing. I'm so glad that Kyle is my draft pick, and I've never lost faith in him, but he has shown his personality more and more every week, to the point where now he has a segment in the show. We dropped the Jeff line of the week, and now we've got a completely different person's quote of the week, simply based off of their personality shining through. So I feel good about my Kyle pick.
I didn't see that coming at all. I thought Kyle would be gone by now.
I did too. I'll be honest. I really did think he was going to be gone. Y'all made fun of me when I picked Kyle.
Yeah, we did.
I know I've brought this up before, but y'all have also made fun of me for picking Genevieve. And then y'all made fun of me for picking Kyle. And
Yeah.
both of which are still here. And the people you didn't make fun of me for are gone. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's like, what is
So
happening?
I mean, I said on that draft show, then we'll get into our teams and everything later, but I said on that show, we're going to say a lot of stuff that ages horribly.
Yeah.
And that's been true.
I don't know if I can't remember. Most of what I say ages horribly, so I probably have just blanked it all out. But yeah, so continue. Let's talk about this challenge that was ahead of the crew.
Kyle, he found the person he was meant to be with, and they said yes, and then we get to the challenge, and there was a lot of moving parts to this. They had to dig through sand, and then they had to dig a bag out of the sand, and then they had to build a staircase puzzle, and then they had to get up the staircase and then go across a balance beam. And after you do all that, that's when the challenge really starts. But we need to talk about a very pivotal moment early on, because I feel like we can breeze through most of it, but it's crucial that we bring up the moment where Sam and Andy, they're trying to dig this thing out.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I was like, how am I going to go back? Because I was like, Petey's gone too far. He's missed my favorite moment of the episode. I'm going to have to pull him back.
Nope,
you're talking
I've
about
got
where
a
they're digging in
plan.
the sand, right?
Yep, I'm circling back. So Sam and Andy, they're digging through the sand, trying to get this bag out, and then they tear the handle off of it. And they're like, Jeff, what do we do? And Jeff's like, that's on you all.
Yeah.
That's the Jeff quote of the week this week. That was
literally,
awesome.
they didn't even say, Jeff, what do we do? They were like, Jeff, hey, Jeff, like it was, oh, we need to stop the challenge. And he just immediately assesses it and is like, that's on you all. And they never mention it again. They just keep on moving. And I also, about this duo that this happens to, first of all, it's Andy again. I mean, just the misfortune that falls upon this man. But why are Sam and Andy together? Because it wasn't Sam saying that he was just so heartbroken by Andy, like in the beginning of the episode? Like, why? What happened to put them together for
That's
this
a good
one
point.
moment?
He said, he's like, I can't even look at him. And then he's like, you know what, Andy? I want you to be my partner.
That's
It was
what I'm
Sam
saying.
who initiated it. So, yeah, I don't understand that. But to the most important part, and the most important part of this episode, they're trying to get this bag that they broke they broke the rope off of.
Yep.
And they couldn't pull it out.
Well, it like ripped it ripped a whole part of the bag off.
Yeah, so they ripped the bag, and it made it almost impossible for them to get it out of there. And then Andy resorts to his favorite move, which is violently thrusting.
He does.
I think in all caps, I was like, he's thrusting again.
Which is something I never thought that I would be happy to receive from you in a text message. But I knew exactly what you meant this week.
Yeah, I was watching it with my dad. I looked at him. I was like, he's doing it again. Why? Why is it? Nobody else in the history of Survivor, I don't think, is.
And how was Scott's reaction to this, by the way? How did Scott react to the thrust?
So he was just laughing at him.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, this is just, it's never happened. There's never been a Survivor player where we were like, in those challenges, they kept thrusting their hips in a weird way.
It's almost like it's his most efficient muscle group. And he's like, anytime something intense starts happening, Andy fires up the loins and just starts going to get the extra work done for the challenge. And both times it has not worked for him. So maybe less hip would be the thing for Andy. Less thrusting. So we did see Sue take a 45-year-old tumble from the balance beam to injure her 45-year-old hips because she was going pretty slow across a balance beam that was over a net. And then at that point, she panics and leaps and takes a pretty good little hit on the hip. And I do wonder how that's going to affect Sue and her health. But I did want to bring that up.
I was a little concerned about that, but it didn't seem to have any effect on her.
Phase her. she's a healthy
No.
old gal, you know. That's what that's
Don't call
what
her
I'm gonna
old.
say. So
You can't say healthy old gal. She is a healthy 45-year-old challenge
That's-
beast gal.
that's right. I forgot about that. I misspoke. I didn't mean to disrespect her. Kyle and Gabe were very quick across that balance beam. They were flying because it took them a moment on the stairs, and they were behind, and then they both bolted across that. So I was impressed by the balance skills on that team.
Yeah, it took Sue a while to get across before she just yeeted herself.
Yeah.
It's another thing the kids say. She yeeted herself, and then it was Genevieve who was moving like a turtle
Yep.
and just buried him.
That was a situation where, as I saw Genevieve, I almost called her Guinevere. As I saw Genevieve struggling right there, I thought, this could affect her legacy for the worse, you know. But anyway, so they finish up that, and then it's the final four of that challenge. Well, first of all, we didn't talk about the stakes of people losing votes. We have to discuss this.
Oh yeah, that's true. It was the first two groups that were out lost their vote. And
All
that
four.
was Caroline, Andy, Sam, and Rachel.
Yep. Which is Jeff's just taking people's votes recently.
Or so we thought. I thought that he was wiping out 4 votes, and I was like, that's gonna be a nightmare for everybody.
That's what I thought too. But it was a twist to it later, but they for the moment lost their 4 votes. They're gone. So then at that point it is, am I missing a part of the challenge, or do they the 4 people went straight to the
after that it was
thing.
the balance. Yeah, the balance beam. The balance beam is what Sue almost ate it across.
Yeah.
What do you call that thing? I don't know. The torture chamber.
Dude, it's like I'm watching that and I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a crime happen, because they basically they're between two walls, and there's barely little ledges for their feet to sit sideways on. And then classic Survivor style, the longer that they're up there, then they have to step down to a much smaller beam, and then to a smaller little beam. And it looked...
It was...
it looked bad.
It did look terrible. But it was Saul, Teeny, Gabe, and Kyle were the final 4.
They gave Teeny a little montage of just how in pain she was fighting through it.
Yeah, that's about all the screen time Teeny has gotten, is just that being in pain and then not getting her way.
Yeah, being in
on,
pain,
Povel.
not getting her way, and ruining plans. That's the Teeny way. So...
It ends up being Gabe and Kyle as the final 2, and I thought for sure, even before we got to this point, I was like, Kyle's got this all the way. Kyle's going to win 4 in a row. And then Gabe does it somehow.
I have a theory that Kyle gave up on purpose.
I feel like, why get yourself all the way to that point to just give up? Because Kyle was in pain too.
But see, there's 2 ways you can take this. If I was Kyle, there would be, inside of me, there are 2 wolves at that point. There's the wolf that's saying, Jonathan, you have to win this, because there's a target on your back from how many you've won already. So you need to keep winning them so that they don't have the option to vote you out. Then there would be the other wolf saying, hey, you need to lose this challenge, because maybe you'll seem like less of a threat and not get voted for. I don't know which way I would play in the moment, but part of me would probably lean towards losing the challenge on purpose. So I don't know.
I think the opposite. I think Wolf 1 is correct in that scenario, because I think he should have been thinking that way, even though it didn't come to pass.
Yeah,
I feel like they should have gotten him out, because he just barely lost the immunity. He barely didn't get his fourth.
That was very that was very Shakespeare of you, for us to be talking about a reality television show on CBS and you to drop the phrase "did not come to pass."
Maybe I'm trying to be like Jeff with my Shakespeare in the Park. You know?
Oh, that was good. But I don't know. It is difficult to say which way to lean on that. So you think you would lean towards I need to just keep winning these?
Yeah, because I think the other people should have gotten him out for losing, even though they went a different direction.
But that again is just, this is a conversation you and I had a little bit already, which is whenever you see an obvious choice in Survivor, people are so obsessed now with the just blindsiding situations that even when the choice is kind of obvious in front of them, everybody's trying to make a move of some sort. So for us to look at this and say, okay, Kyle is clearly winning the most challenges and going crazy with it, he should be voted out. Well, everybody else has these other motives where they're like, actually, I would like to get someone out and kind of like get a Survivor bucket list going for myself. So it never winds up being as simple as they say, unless it's Rome on like round 3. So,
I was about to say that.
you thought I forgot about him.
This, before we get into what happened next on the episode, one thing that Jeff said was that episode where Rome went home, he said we told the whole episode was through the eyes of Rome until we get to the end. And then you see it through the perspective of everybody else. And that's why it was made so obvious to all of us, like at the very end.
Yeah, well, I mean, he says that as if it wasn't just the most obvious thing happening. Like, he says that like they manufactured a Christopher Nolan level plot. And the reality is everyone was just fed up with the guy. They're like, can we just sit at home? There's no other conversations happening. Like, get him out.
Stop disrespecting Jeff. I think he's the next Christopher Nolan of our time. on CBS doing a reality TV show. I think he is.
This is our Interstellar. That's what I keep saying to all of you. Yeah. This is our Interstellar. Meanwhile, the shows that follow it, like The Amazing Race and things like that, those are more of like our Tenet, where you might like it or you might not, depending on if you understand it, you know?
Yeah, well, as far as I stand on that, I don't acknowledge those other shows. To me, Survivor is the only reality show that exists.
Right. You don't even acknowledge Elsbeth and all of the ads that we get for that show.
Okay, this is another aside. I feel like we should spin a wheel, and it's the wheel of CBS shows that we get shown ads for all year. And like whoever gets, Elsbeth, you got to watch an episode of Elsbeth and then come on the pod and recap it for us in like 5 minutes.
I'm begging that I get just like Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy. That's like,
well, I think the choices would have to be Chicago Fire.
Oh no,
Elsbeth, The Equalizer, and Ghosts.
The Equalizer, as in what used to be Denzel Washington and is now Queen Latifah.
Yes, exactly.
What an odd
and Kathy
choice.
Kathy Bates. What is her show?
Matlock. It was Andy Griffith back in the day, but now it's Kathy Bates, and apparently it's a killer show. So maybe I should watch it, but. CBS is getting in my head with these ads. Let's continue with Survivor before we dive too far into Elsbeth and Matlock.
Okay. So, Gabe wins, and he does a little dance.
He does.
The first thing I thought was, nobody else on the podcast is going to know what this dance is, because y'all are nerds.
Do I know what this dance is? Well, I know it's not the Orange Justice from Fortnite, so...
No.
It was not the floss either, so I know those two dance moves.
This one was around a long time before those.
Is it? It's not the electric slide, is it? That would be. It's not the Macarena. It's nothing I've seen at a wedding anytime recently.
You're not even remotely in the ballpark.
I'm not.
What kind of dance this is?
What dance is it?
It is the Baltimore Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis. He would come out and do this dance pregame. You do actually?
I have seen this. I just in this moment where all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. I know that I've seen a football player do this before. So I couldn't have told you who it is, but as soon as you started saying it, I was like, I've seen it.
Yeah, that particular linebacker terrorized my team for about 20 years.
And so you saw that dance and you cried a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. But, good for Gabe.
How do you feel that he's on your team? Is that correct?
Yes, Gabe's on my team, and as long as he's going to win for me, it's okay that he's a Ravens fan. That's all right. That's totally fine. I'm willing to look past that. If he can win challenges and go farther in the game.
You just switched sides as fast as Kyle switched from being vegan. Like it is, you moved quick to just excusing things. So I don't know. It's
because we're in different worlds. If Gabe came over and watched a football game with me, I'd be like, "Hey, we're not on the same team, buddy. We have we have different interests here." But as far as Survivor, I picked him. I would be rude about it, but on Survivor, I picked him, and he's on my team, and he's my star quarterback right now. Okay, wow. He's my Patrick Mahomes.
So you're telling me you don't think Andy is going to win?
I'm just saying, if I was filling out my depth chart, Andy or Sue, they're not number one.
Oh, dude, I forgot about Sue already was on your team. I mean, just
oh man,
erased her from my brain for a moment. But
disrespect.
I mean, I'm over here with Kyle and Genevieve. I feel good with that. But okay, so Gabe wins. He does his little dance, his little Baltimore Ravens dance. Then the others who lost their vote are sent on a journey. So we had Caroline, we had Andy, we had Sam, and we had, I'm missing someone. Who am I missing?
It was Caroline, Sam, Andy, Rachel.
Rachel, yeah. And they end up in a cave where there's these little cards, right? These little stackable rectangle blocks. And they essentially have to build a card tower one by one going around the circle. And whoever makes it fall loses their vote permanently for the night, and the others gain it back. So that was like a real scare where we thought 4 people were losing their vote and potentially not getting it back. And then all of a sudden we get to this little bat cave, and it's like, actually, only one of y'all is losing it, but it's this weirdly intense Jenga game.
Yeah, I was about to say Survivor Jenga. I think
it was great. I actually really enjoyed that twist.
Yeah, me too. Every little piece felt so high risk, and I felt like Caroline was trying to like put it on badly so that she could mess it up for Rachel.
Dude, oh my word, she was putting it like right on the edge because they were stacking in little triangles, like balanced on each other's, like on the edge, and she would just barely leave any space for the next person, and it was really intense. But ultimately, Caroline made it tumble.
She did, and I could not believe that Andy got through a challenge without looking stupid at one point. And he got his vote back. I texted y'all immediately, and I said, Andy's not. There's no way. Whatever they have to do, he is not coming back with a vote. I don't care what it is. But he proved me wrong.
He had to have a 1 in 3. Like, it was a 1 in 4, chance of losing a vote in order to not lose it. If it had been any worse, he would have lost that vote. If there was one other person losing a vote, it would have been him. But it's just not the way the tower fell, is what we say.
If there was a betting site for Survivor, I would have been like, put $1,000 on Andy not getting his vote back right now. That's the easiest money ever. But you know what? You don't bet on the easy money in Survivor because Kyle didn't win that challenge and Andy somehow got his vote back. But we haven't mentioned the little reward dinner.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I moved too quickly.
Yes, that was the first thing we saw before the journey. Actually, was Soul, Teeny.
See, this is why I can't lead these podcasts. I just jumped an entire portion of the episode. It's over for me.
Yeah, you're fired, Jonathan.
Oh, man.
Just kidding. We still have like 20 more minutes probably. But so Soul, Teeny, Gabe, and Kyle are enjoying some food together. And then Teeny says, all we're hearing from Gabe right now is pleasureful moaning, and Saul is a burp machine.
Yep.
I feel like the burps were so overwhelming that I would be talking about the burps too.
It does come across impolite, is what I'll say.
They were exaggerated, and Saul even said, I'd rather have a cool cartoon burp than a weak-ass burp.
It was excessive. It makes you wonder if the producers are just behind the camera like, give us one more. Like, you got one more in there? Like, throw one more.
Maybe. I thought it was a sound effect at first. That's how exaggerated it sounded. I was like, wow, they're really doing Saul dirty like that. And then when it happened like
Jeff's
5 more times.
With a Rode podcaster button triggering the burp sounds as they're filming. You know,
that's how cartoonish it sounded.
It was very cartoony. Now, Kristen and I were watching while also trying to put Lizzie to sleep. And we're just hearing the faintest burps, but then also looking at the subtitles that we have on because we have the volume so low that it's just like, you know, insert sentence, and then it just had in parentheses, belches. So that was our experience of it.
Saul, I think that we get to the strategy portion, and this is where the episode just starts to get real chaotic. Yes, complete chaos. Because it starts with Genevieve and Andy.
Yep. And
they're like, all right, Genevieve's like, would you consider doing Saul? And then Andy's like, I had actually thought about Saul like 2 votes from now, but we can do Saul. Just let me know who's on board.
I was rolling my eyes so hard on behalf of my own player. I'm like, out of everybody that you're telling right now, Genevieve, why do you keep gravitating to Andy? He's a time bomb. He's unpredictable. You also know that he loves, in his own words, he said Genevieve is feeling froggy right now.
Yeah, he stole a Kyle quote of the week.
Yeah. He took it and said, Genevieve's feeling froggy right now, and I'm okay with that. But then he's like, I don't know if I'm okay with that. Andy's too much of a wild card to work with. He's too unstable.
Yeah. Or he's the hottest free agent in the game, and Genevieve is like, that is who I want to work with.
Maybe. She saw him let his hair down last episode and was like, I've got to work with him. That's what it was.
Yeah, she said he's all that.
He's
Andy was like, so let me know if you have everybody on board. And then Genevieve should have just been like, okay, Andy, we've got everyone on board. She didn't really have to go actually get everyone, but she did actually. She went and tried to connect with Rachel. Yeah. And she's like, don't tell Sam. And Rachel immediately tells Sam.
That's where Genevieve's making me nervous because she got really sloppy. And I was getting concerned watching it because it was just like, okay, first of all, you told Andy the craziest wild card in the game right now, and then proceeded to just tell everybody that it's too trusting. Like, I don't know. It felt.
Well, I think she needed Rachel, but the risk of Rachel telling Sam was real. And then that's exactly what happened. And then Sam was so down bad that he's just like, all right, let's just throw a grenade into this.
Yeah. He legit said, I'm going to blow this game up. And proceeded to just tell Saul. Like, pulled him aside and was like, you listen to me right now, Saul. The conversation we're having right now is the most important one you'll have in the game. He said that. And then he was like, it's you tonight. It's you tonight, Saul. And it felt very dramatic. And then Saul talks with Teeny. How did Teeny end up going to Genevieve?
Yeah, Saul goes to Teeny.
Yeah.
Because then it's just 3 Lavos left. It's Genevieve, Teeny, and Saul. Yeah. So Saul goes to Teeny first, and then Teeny goes to Genevieve, and she's like, Genevieve, what's happening? They're trying to get Saul.
And Genevieve's like, what? That's crazy, Teeny. Like, it made it all the way full circle. And now but Saul was scrambling, too. He started going a little crazy.
and I started to feel bad for him. I got flashbacks to him getting bullied by Rome, where I was like, oh man, Saul's the nicest guy,
Yep.
and I don't want to see this happen to him. But I don't understand Genevieve's insistence on it being him.
I don't really either, because to me, I'm watching it and like Saul's a nice guy, but I don't know that he's a threat. You know, like
Yeah,
he's a little laid back to be like a heavy hitter or like just the best player in the game right now. Like to me, the people that I would be looking at would be Sam, potentially. I would also be thinking to get Andy out. And Teeny is a little too friendly with everybody.
she's a little too Kinsey for me.
Yeah, a little too Kinsey is a good way of putting it. Like, just too likable, very comforting, easy to get along with for everybody. And I don't
that's
like
exactly
that.
how Kinsey won.
Man, see, Teeny's making me nervous. Teeny's making me nervous too. So I would be focused on those three before I would look at Saul and be like, oh, yeah, send him home, you know?
Yeah, and I guess Genevieve, like, by doing this, she's like, well, I am turning on Teeny. Because she even said that. She's like, I think the bridge is burned with Teeny after this. And she's right. Because, I mean, all right, let's just go to Tribal now.
Well,
so
first of all, they started throwing Sue's name out there too, by the way.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's important, too. Because that's Saul's plan.
Saul starts throwing Sue out there saying we need to get rid of Sue because that will make them lose power or whatever. And so
Yeah,
at that point,
and not Kyle.
Yeah, not Kyle. Kyle's name didn't even get thrown out, dude.
It did a little bit. Because I remember at Tribal, if we just want to jump there.
Yeah.
They kept telling like Sam, like, wait, I thought we were voting Kyle, like as the fake plan that they were going with. So they were throwing out Kyle as the backup or as the decoy towards the very end for some reason. So it was like Sue, Kyle, or Saul is what we were led to believe before the vote.
So Tribal though was Tribal was immediately like whispers everywhere. Like
I hated it.
It was tense the entire time. Like they sat down and it was like nothing prompted it, but they just had not settled what they were doing as a whole. So the conversations just kept going immediately. Like there's interviews happening, Jeff is talking to people, and while he's doing that, you're just seeing Sam whispering and Andy being like, huh, what's going on? And Sue looking terrified the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
it was tense and it was fast paced, but not fast paced enough.
It felt like it took forever.
Yeah.
And the other part was that I would be trying to listen to the answer that somebody was giving, and then they would start whispering, and I'd be like, I have no idea what was even asked anymore.
Yeah, it was very distracting. Like, he would ask an important question, and then they would immediately clip the camera away from the person that was asked and start showing, like, Rachel being like, are we sure? Are we sure?
Yeah. Is it Sue? Is it still Sue? Is it? But I thought you said Kyle. Like,
Yeah, it was very chaotic. And it just gets to a certain point with those where you're like, we just need to vote. Like, nobody, this is not even accomplishing anything. Like, we just need to get everybody to write a name down.
Yeah, I was thinking that, like, can we just vote already?
Yeah.
Let's, about like 5 or 7 minutes into this, I was like, let's just get on with it.
Now, before they read the votes, who did you think was going home?
I thought it was Saul, but I was nervous about the whole scramble that had happened, but I was pretty sure it was Saul.
I thought it was going to be Sue because I felt like I just was seeing her name said so much, but I couldn't keep up with who was just saying that to say it. And the next thing you know, they're like, let's vote, let's do it. And so I thought Sue was going home. I was pretty surprised. I would love to be a fly on the wall when Chase sees Saul go home.
Oh man, I would love to as well. I wish so badly that we could have his thoughts by now so that we could at least read whatever all caps message that he would have sent. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, like, don't contact Chase and let him know just in case he hasn't seen the episode by the time this comes out. It's a busy week for him, but his crash out is going to be legendary. So thoughts and prayers for Chase's mental well-being this week. Because, I mean, Soul was his ticket, but he's got a good shot with Rachel, his last player left. But
true.
Soul, I feel like Chase was very emotionally tied to Soul.
Yeah. Saul was his cue this season. Like that was his. He bonded with this player, and the thing is too that I understand why, because Saul is so likable, and you watch him suffer for the entire first part of the season. So for it to end like this, you're just like, rest in peace. Like this is just it's rough to see him, but he's on the journey.
Yeah.
So he gets to kind of live that other side of it. So I'm happy for him in that way.
I feel like, if I don't want to make myself do work, so I probably won't do it, but there should be sad music under this part. We should be talking over some like sad piano music. Who knows? Maybe I will feel like doing it. But Soul, I just want to say thank you for the entertainment value, just for being a cool dude when on Survivor. Sometimes there aren't enough cool dudes, and he was like the ultimate cool Survivor dude.
He was, and he's the kind of guy that you could just chill out with on the beach, hang out with, and he would just all around be easy to have around a camp. And now they have Andy still. So.
Yeah, somehow.
Oh man. Well, dang, we saw him go home. We have not experienced the Chase Bridges fallout yet, that it will be coming. But we feel good. We've got our players still. And I do enjoy a good Chase Bridges breakdown.
Yeah. So let's talk about the draft real quick. In the lead right now, it's me and Kristen. Kristen has Caroline, Teeny, and Sam. And then
I hate that
have,
for her.
because it looks like a real good team right about now.
Yeah.
But I have the wild card team. I have Gabe, Sue, and Andy, and then Jonathan. What do you want to say about my awesome squad?
Petey, I don't want to sound like a bummer right now, but I do want to say I don't foresee another Jody Newell Survivor Championship ring after this season for you.
I don't know. I have the numbers on my side right now. Me and Kristen both do. It's another battle at the moment, at least.
I don't know. But yes, and so I have still Kyle and Genevieve, two stellar players, but some might say they're too good, which makes me concerned. I might have two alphas that are going to have a problem.
And this is like this was Genevieve's big move.
It was her second big move.
Yeah.
In 2 episodes, which is a little too much. My team is winning too much for me to feel comfortable. And then we have Chase, and he has Rachel.
Yes, which is like I said earlier, it's a great last person to be left with, but no one wants to be left with their last person on the 9th episode of the show.
He could be in for another season where he's out before the finale.
And that's been the last 3?
Yep.
Or no, this is number 4. So it was the last 2 times that happened.
2 at least, yeah. Because he had Q last time. But that's where we're at. That's where the numbers are. And I feel good about it. But I almost called you Chase. I'm sorry. Don't take that as an insult. PD, we have mail to catch up on real quick.
Yeah.
We have letters from loved ones. People, if you wanna email us, send us tree mail, letters from loved ones, whatever you want to call it. You can email us at makingthemergepod@gmail.com. This is actually a follow-up, by the way. We had a review that stated that each of us were very similar to several different characters from Survivor. We had Philip, Q, and who else was it? Andy. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of comparison going on, and we felt that we needed some clarification. And so Oliver has sent us some clarification via email instead of Apple review, which is fantastic, and I've got that for us here. So he said, "Hey, letter from a loved one here. Coming to clarify who is who from my review. I'll take the easy route and pick Andy for PD as he picked him for the draft. Dang, tough, bad day to be PD.
Oh, man.
Philip, I'll go Chase." Just like how Chase is riding the high from his YouTube money, so did Philip in his second season being close with Boston Rob. I also think Philip would make a bet that leaves him getting a tattoo of a mortal enemy, Francesca, like Chase with Banu. And leaving Jonathan to be Q, heck yeah. I got the good deal on this one. I think Jonathan would come up with a J skirt. For some reason, I think if it's just Andy and Q, it can be a reasonable, non-chaotic podcast, and maybe because that's how Andy expected it to be. Also, question for the pod, who decided to turn the draft into a podcast? And thank you to who did. Always a good listen. That's a great question. I like that question. The draft was your idea, correct, PD? Before Kristen and I hopped on board.
Yeah, I love gambling, and I was like, how do I scratch that itch with Survivor? And then I tried to hook Chase into watching, and it worked. And then once I found out about you and Kristen, like being interested, I was like, hey, Chase, let's add 2 more people. It's about to get crazy.
Yeah, and we did it for a year. We did 2 seasons or 1 season of just doing it.
Yeah, we did
for
45
fun.
and 46.
Oh, yeah. And then Chase and I, because we both have done YouTube stuff, we were like, oh, we should do a video documenting this. Then at that point, we turned it into one video that went on my channel. And then we thought this might be better as a podcast. And I think you were the one who pitched the podcast, right?
Yeah. Because I was like, it would just be fun to look back on. No one's going to listen to it, but it'd be fun just to look back on our draft or like what we thought about certain stuff. And
yeah. And just like we were already talking about it. So we figured we would just talk about it on a recording. But PD, you were driving the ship into the podcast world for sure on this end of things and coming up with the draft. So I would say you're our Jeff Probst is what I'll say.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow.
I'll take that.
Executive
Man, that's
producer.
how you do it on. That's how you do it on Making the Merge.
Yeah. Dang. But awesome. If people want to ask a question, think you can leave comments on Spotify now too. You can comment on the YouTube channel. Email us makingthemergepod@gmail.com. All of that good stuff. We read it all, and we have a great time.
Yep, and unlike some other Survivor podcasts, we're not just criticizing the show, because to us, the show is a vehicle for us to be winners over our friends.
That's
so we're
right.
less caught up in, complaining about every little thing. We just want to, win Survivor.
That's true. I just want to be a winner. That's all I want from this. I haven't gotten it yet, but when I do get it, it'll be a sweet victory for me.
And sweet victory.
I said it.
Yeah.
Nothing me too.
We love Survivor. We love talking about it. So it's naturally, and we all make content already. So it made sense for us to do this, but at the time it kind of didn't make sense because it's like there's a million of these. But hey, turns out we're awesome, and people like our clips.
Well, and that was, we said early on when we realized we were accidentally becoming successful, we were like, wait a second, we've all run multiple channels of content and creation, that it only makes sense that we've now assembled some think group where we have almost unintentionally become good at this.
Yeah. And I'll say I'll agree with the almost, because there's definitely some things like not having a theme song.
Yeah.
that are
We have
still
not
around.
aced that part of it. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, look, theme song's on the way. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. This has been Making the Merge. I've been PD.
I've been Jonathan this whole time. So
And sorry for you. No, I
Yeah.
can't do sorry for you. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna find a Jeff quote and put it here.
great.